Alright, so I think I fixed the audio bullshit. I think I did. I tested it out. I listened to a couple test recordings, and I was able to balance my audio to the video's audio as best I could. I literally have the my audio slider set to the max, but I can't really do much else for limiting how loud the video's audio is, because it comes through my speakers and then through the mic of my computer, and I don't have decent headphones. So I did the best I could. I stumbled upon a video that made me angry. So I decided to make a video about the morality argument, because I'm sick and tired of hearing this argument. This was the first thing that came up for Answers in Genesis, so I'm hoping that this is actually the argument for morality. But here we go.
Where did everything come from? I specifically remember, as a young child, looking up at the stars, trying to think through the complexities and the big picture of life. Where did all of this come from? And where does it stop? I recall thinking, okay, so I'm here in Ontario, and Ontario is in Canada, and Canada is on the Earth, and the Earth is in space, and the moon is farther away from us, and the sun's even farther away, and there are more stars and planets even farther away than that. But what's after those? And what's after whatever's after that? Where does it end? How can it end? There must be...
There's a shit ton of stuff going further and further out until you literally get to the end of existence. That's pretty much all there is to it.
Something beyond that. And then my brain would shut down, and I just console myself by assuming that was something that big people must know, and they'd tell me when I was older and could understand.
So many of these questions are questions that children have, and the sad thing about that is most of the answers to the big questions that kids have are not mainstream, which is just sad. It is very, very sad. But it's sad that that's the case, but it is the case. And I'm really happy that people like Neil deGrasse Tyson are fighting to make that knowledge more available. The issue is that we're learning new things at a very fast rate, and a lot of the time after the first discovery, most of the time it doesn't really get talked about because we're rushing to the next big answer. And that is very sad. That is a point that I'd like, an area within the scientific community that I'd like to grow, is just answering these questions for people who don't know it, kids and adults alike. I'd really love for all of this information that we're finding out at such a rapid pace to become more mainstream. Sadly, probably won't happen very quickly.
But no one ever could. Having had 3 of my own...
It's not that no one ever could, it's that no one ever really had the time to explain it to you.
Children now, along with 12 grandchildren since then, I realize I wasn't unique in my pondering. And I'm not...
Of course! Kids are wired to intake knowledge. Kids are wired to intake knowledge and then make questions. Kids are like the perfect scientists because they have all of the aspects that scientists need. And the sad thing about, at least America, I don't know about Canada, but in America, all of that curiosity is quashed. And it's really sad. It's really sad to see.
I only had to take the time to think these things through myself, but I've also been exposed to a myriad of opinions of various calibers on the subject, brought to me through books and videos and deep conversations from philosophers and thinkers of all stripes. But ultimately, after my conversion to Christianity, my conclusions were shaped by the final authority on all subjects, the Word of God.
Yeah, but that authority has absolutely no proof backing it up. There is absolutely no proof that anything in the Bible is actually as it has been said to be in the Bible.
You see, as amazingly brilliant and wise as some people can be, the state we find ourselves in as finite human beings is humbling, as we realize that there's some things that we can know. And
yes, you should be humble, but you also have to realize the majesty of what evolution has shaped us into. Evolution shaped us, but we were capable of so much from the very beginning. Life as it exists on this planet it has unfathomable possibilities. Not just humans, but every creature. Evolution has so many possibilities, but they just throw that out to substitute it for God instead.
And some things that we'll likely never know. As Scripture says, the secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things that are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law.
Once again, Scripture is not valid evidence.
Deuteronomy 29, verse 29. When discussing the question of ultimate origins, which is a great way to open up gospel conversations, people can sometimes get bogged down by the seemingly overwhelming number of possibilities that they've been exposed to. But thinking it through, taking just a few things into account, it's really not as difficult as your local philosophy professor often makes it out to be.
Okay, now he is trying to dumb down super complicated things. What do you want to bet that it's going to make it completely inaccurate by the time he has dumbed it down?
For example, the answer to where did everything come from, when boiled down, only has two possible answers.
Oh god, either or fallacy. No, dude, no. There are hundreds, thousands of possibilities. Even in the accepted possibilities, there are dozens. All slightly different or vastly different. Like, they're all different ideas of what it may be. The thing is that is whittled down further and further the more evidence we get. But to say that there's only two possibilities is completely false.
You see, either matter has eternally existed and can create. It has creative
What? What? Wasn't he saying that this is how everything comes to be? That's not even close to a fully formed argument or theory on how everything comes to be. That's just how matter exists, if it exists. Like, dude!
Properties, or God has eternally existed and has...
Oh my god. No. Even then, there are multiple other possibilities. Dear Lord. There's the possibility that matter was created before, the laws of the universe were really concrete. Because we don't know exactly what happened before, the expansion of the universe. Matter could have always existed, but it could have been created very early on as well. Because we don't know all up to the very beginning of the creation of everything, or the existence of everything is what I should say. We don't know everything. We only know up to a certain point, and then there's a cutoff. We know that matter existed for that entire time, but the state in which matter existed has changed over that time as well. Because in the beginning, there were only quarks, and then they could only form into very, very small elements, and then the bigger elements were formed through star fusion. That's something that we know, because there's evidence for it.
Has created. Now, why something eternal? Well, because the challenge of infinite regress demands it. The answer to the question, where did that come from, always results in some sort of answer involving, from either this or from that. However, one can't simply keep asking, where did that come from, and receiving an answer involving from that forever.
Yeah, because eventually we will have the answer of I don't know, not just randomly pulling God out of our asses.
Intellectually, we understand that sooner or later we'll run out of this or that to answer the question.
Yeah, which is why we find more evidence for that new question.
We know there must be either something or someone that was always eternally there. It's as Ecclesiastes 3
Bullshit.
verse 11 says.
Scripture is not valid evidence. You need to give an actual, real piece of evidence for why you are positing that God has to exist. You can't just say God has to exist because a being from the beginning to end of time has to exist without giving any evidence for it. You have made an assumption. You have made a baseless assumption based on what you already believe, based on a baseless assumption.
Made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end.
Shalom, friend. I am Dr. Eli Lizurkin-Eisenberg, head of school at Israel Bible Center.
Of course, in an atheistic evolutionary worldview, there's no mind that created, just properties inherent in matter that brought
No! It's not what... Oh my god. Oh my god. It's... He just says shit. He just says shit and goes, trust me, bro, and then completely strawmans what actual experts on the subject are saying. Dude. Fuck.
Everything about we see through random processes. There are serious challenges to that, however, exacerbated by what observational scientific discovery...
Fuck. Observational science is what he says. Dude. I want to remind my viewers that what Christians mean by observational science is just science that they don't have a way of bullshitting their way out of. That's all they mean. That's all they mean when they say observational science. They mean science that is so concrete that you can watch happening that they literally can't say anything to the contrary because you can watch it happening.
Demonstrate. For example, the modern story of evolution touts that living things are basically the result of genetic mutations guided by natural selection. The problem is that genetic mutation is the result of spelling mistakes within an already...
No, do not equate it to writing. Do not equate it to code, because that's not what it is. That's not what it is. And let me further, because I know he's going to make that argument, or at least he's going to quickly make that bullshit argument and then step over it without ever going into it. But I want to remind you all that changing certain things in words is how we get slang. That's how we get slang. And then that slang eventually becomes so mainstream that it becomes a legitimate word. So I want to remind you that that's how that works. That's how that works in words and stuff like that. And I want to also remind you that because if he likens it to code as well, making mistakes in coding things is how some people actually made parts of their code. Like, for programs they were creating. If you ask a software engineer if they've ever made a mistake and realized that that was exactly what they needed in the code, they will say yes.
Already existing and replicating genetic code. And rather than being the evolutionary superpower as it's often portrayed as being in evolutionary literature, natural selection can only select from genetic information from within the pre-existing biological system of the creature in question.
Bullshit! Bullshit. I'm telling you right now, that's bullshit. From a simple standpoint of understanding how these things work, you can tell that that's bullshit. I want you guys to remember that literally all of the species on this planet, all of the multicellular organisms, that's animals, plants, humans are animals, that's apes, that's bananas, that's coconuts, all of them are made up of the exact same building blocks. The only difference between any of them is the fact that the building blocks are built in a different order. That is the only difference. The only difference is the exact structure. The order in which the bricks are placed to form the wall and where those bricks are placed. Because that could create a wall. That could create a building. That could create, I don't know, a fucking car. I mean, technically no, you couldn't. Well, actually, somebody made a fucking car out of Legos, didn't they? So yeah, you can build a fucking car. Like, dude. It's, oh my god, it's so frustrating to watch these guys absolutely wank off their idea of why God exists and go, hey, look at this. This is coherent. This is amazing. Look at this. This is awesome. And then completely misunderstand everything about science and expect, yeah, the way you're saying these things, the way you're portraying them, of course they sound insane. Of course they sound batshit fucking crazy. But it's also gonna sound batshit fucking crazy if I go, oh yeah, look at them. They go and they burn cows so that they can give it to a magical sky daddy in the clouds. Do you see how batshit crazy that sounds? That is exactly what Christians used to do. In the times of Jesus, that is exactly what Christians would do.
Neither of these processes can account for the origin of the biggest challenge to the naturalistic worldview
Yeah, with the way you're explaining it, really fucking poorly, of course it doesn't explain shit.
itself. The symbolic coded language system embedded within all living things. DNA.
Liking it to computer code, even though it's not computer code, and even if it was like computer code, it does nothing for your argument because computer code can be made by chance as well.
In an effort to indoctrinate children into a naturalistic...
Dude! No fucking way he's playing the indoctrination card when that is exactly what fucking Christians do every single Sunday. That is exactly what Christians do. That is what Sunday school is, folks. That is what Sunday school is. I went through it. I then was forced to volunteer to indoctrinate children. When I was in 6th fucking grade, I was forced to volunteer to indoctrinate children just like they did to me. Fuck.
worldview. Evolutionists have sometimes used the fallacious example of using randomly distributed letters in classrooms.
Dude. Is he gonna say that scientists are liking it to fucking words in an actual language? Oh my god. This guy is insufferable because he just does bullshit and then he just turns around and accuses scientists of doing that same bullshit as if it's bad when they do it. It's a double standard and it's fucking irritating. And nowhere in this have I even heard a hint of the argument for morality. So thank you, YouTube. Thank you for suggesting this bullshit video.
As an example of how information can arise from random processes. By arbitrarily handing out letters printed on cardboard sheets face down to students and having them flip them over to see if they can find a word spelled out here and there.
You got, like, any evidence that this actually happened and wasn't just your fucked up little fucking wet dream? You got any evidence that this isn't one of the things that you do when you're teaching children about the Bible to show that it's insane? Fuck off.
They attempt to convince young minds that random selection can produce information.
But it's not random. It's, oh my god. It's so irritating. Evolution, the specific facet of evolution that they like to bash so much, but there are other mechanisms of evolution. But the specific one that they like to bash so much, which is, oh fuck, what's the word? God, I always have one fucking dementia moment in one of these videos, which is ironic because I'm younger than any of the assholes making these videos. Oh fuck. Survival of the fittest. I'm just gonna say that because it's the term Darwin used. But basically the way it actually works is it's non-randomized selection of random stuff that it was already done. It's pretty wordy, but basically what that means is that, yes, some of the things, like, the only reason that we have evolution as it is because of random mutation. But, natural selection, that's what it is. But natural selection, what it does is it picks out the ones that are useful. And those are the creatures that have those useful mutations are the ones who live on to create offspring and pass on those mutations. Fucking heartburn. Come on. Why the fuck? There.
So if Johnny, Mary, and Susie have the letters C, A, and T all in a row, voila, cat. We've produced a word without an intelligent agent behind it.
Yes, that's random. But then if somebody went in and they were looking for the word cat over the random other jumbles, and they specifically took that randomly assembled word and they took it out and they were like, okay, this goes on to the next generation, and then took all the other letters and then shuffled them around again, and then, like, you get a new set of the word cat. You take that and then you keep the full words. That's basically, like, I hate that I'm forced to actually make your analogy actually truthful to how this shit actually works, because you are absolutely dog shit at making analogies.
Of course, this process is dependent upon capitalizing on the inexperience of children, who
Which is exactly what you do in your fucking church.
often don't take the time to ponder and ask questions.
Have you met a child? Really though, have you met a child? Because they ask the questions. They will. Now, I know that a lot of the time adults aren't good about answering those questions, but, like, at the end of the day, most of the teachers who are teaching these kids aren't paid enough to answer these questions, which is more an issue with the fucking way the education system in America works. But at the end of the day, if they were actually trained to answer these questions, and they were actually, like, paid enough to answer these questions, they would and they should.
Such as the following. Where do these letters come from in the first place? Why do these letters mean anything? Who assigned the meaning of the letters originally? And does the meaning of the letters...
There was no meaning to begin with. Stop assigning meaning where it isn't needed, dude.
come from the ink or their shape? Do these letters mean anything to all people on the planet, or only to those who understand written English? Do the letters require a translation device to comprehend? And who gets to decide what order the letters should be read in class? Linear, horizontal, backwards, forward?
That's why you shouldn't liken DNA to a language, dipshit. Because the way DNA works is it doesn't only work when the things are aligned in a specific way. They work differently in any combination. They work in a specific way in any combination, dude. That's why. Oh my god. Why do I even try? Because it's always these absolute assholes going and explaining their explanation perfectly and then completely disregarding how to actually explain the other argument. Like, it's not even a straw man at this point. It's just completely fucking up how you explain your opponent's argument without them there so you can pass it off as your opponent's argument. Like, dude, that's not what anybody is saying.
And who gets to decide at which letter to start and to stop to derive meaning?
Nobody decides that. Not with DNA.
The fact is, from all scientific observations, coded language systems are completely arbitrary in the sense that it doesn't matter what they are composed of. For example, if you ask the average person whether twigs on trees contain information content, most would say no. But of course, if you arrange them on the ground in the shape of the word hell.
Oh my god. This dude is so fucking smug when he's explaining oh my god, this is what I hate about all of the people in Answers in Genesis. It's like they're trained to do this. It's like they're trained to have a specific, really smug and annoying tone when they're really, really badly explaining scientific arguments. It's so annoying. It's so annoying to sit through. Oh my god.
Help, H-E-L-P, they would then contain information, but only to someone that already possessed the decoding ability for written English. So information is dependent.
You realize that twigs do contain information, right? They are living beings. They contain the information of life, as you would put it.
On the order in which you arrange the matter and or energy conveying the information, and whether there's a decoding device.
Yes, energy needs a medium. Of course it does. Everything needs a medium
That understands that specific code.
But I need you to understand that a medium doesn't have to be intelligent. You realize that fucking any computer code language has a medium, right? It's the software in which you input the code that's the medium. It reads it in the proper way, and then it spits out a result based on the code and based on how that code was read.
Spoken, written, or signaled, the meaning isn't inherently dependent on the matter or energy it's conveyed upon.
Yeah, it's only dependent on the medium and how that medium reads the arrangement.
For example, Native Americans used smoke signals to communicate a variety of messages. But the meaning of the messages contained in the signals weren't derived from the charred ash suspended in the air that transmitted the content.
They were derived by, and get this, formation and medium.
Help can be conveyed using stones on the beach, twigs in the sand, smoke signals, or shouted sound waves. But
get to the goddamn point. You've explained this basic fact in about 5 different ways by now. What is the point?
none of these entities are themselves uniquely critical to the creation of the message. And neither are the physical properties of DNA, the language of life. Now, is it only creationists that are saying that?
Hi, I'm JT, and I made Result Hunter, the search engine for conservatives. Let me just tell you what it does. First of all, big tech right now is run by a bunch of elitist people who all happen to vote the same way and who all happen to live in huge cities on the West Coast. And so Result Hunter takes those elitist values and elitist sources and kind of pushes them down a little bit in the search engine.
Oh my god, he made a search engine for confirmation bias. That's exactly what he's done. He's made a search engine for confirmation bias. Oh my god. Just the utter stupidity of that kind of makes me want to just stop. Like, stop this video. It's stop everything. I want to be off this mortal plane. Fuck. Yeah, I'm ending this video here. I promise I will not end my life, but if a meteor just so happened to fall from the sky and land directly on my head, I would not protest. Fucking search engine for confirmation bias. No fucking way. Why would you fucking... Oh my god.